Greetings, folks. As you may or may not know, the big box retail toy store, Toys R Us, is closing its doors. They're going out of business. And as a person who grew up with both Toys R Us and another store I'll talk about later, I have to say, I am deeply saddened, like many. For many of us, it's the same reason. Toys R Us may just be another store, but it's a part of many of our childhoods. Let me put it to you this way. There is no greater magic. There is no greater magic than getting something from a store and having it in your hands. There's no greater magic than that. You'll never be able to replace that magic. And online shopping will never replace that magic of getting a video game from Toys R Us, or getting a toy, or your first bike, or your first video, or your first escape rope, your first your first jump rope, your first your first baseball bat. Come on, fess up. How many of us got our first bike from Toys R Us? Your first baseball bat, your first basketball, your first football, anything from Toys R Us. There's a magic to it. And that magic is dying. I'm sad about that. And the reason is because this was made to happen. It wasn't supposed to happen. It was physically made to happen. Through corporate buy-off. I'm not going to get into the technicals because I'm not an economist and I'm never really learned that much of it myself when I'm in a business class, but understanding this would help me a lot. My parents really don't understand why I want to be in business, but allow me to explain why I'm really pissed off about this. Say, how many of you remember KB Toys? They were the rival to Toys R Us. I'll say this, I fucking loved KB Toys as a kid. I fucking loved KB Toys. How many of you remember that place? I bet you don't. Me? It will always be my favorite toy store. I would go in there and I was in a world of toys and joy and love and life. There is no reason for you to try to replace that such sweet magic. You can't replace the magic. You just can't. You just can't. You really can't. Bain Capital is the reason why Toys R Us is closing. Bain Capital is the reason why KB Toys closed, along with Mitt Romney. Fuck you, Mitt. And I have another reason to hate Mitt Romney, other than him being a shitty president and would have pretty much done what Donald Trump does, but on a slower scale. Not a quicker scale, but on a slower scale. One of my most charming memories of Toys R Us I have was getting my first bike. I was 8 years old. 8 or 9, like 7 or 6 years old. when I got my new bike. It was from Toys R Us. Me and my dad picked it out, and we bought it together. I was a little kid back then. Like, this was 12 years ago. To this day, I still have that bike. I don't use it anymore, but if I could just replace the tires on it, it'll feel like new. That bike holds so many memories to me. It was my first bike that I ever ride so much of. Me and my dad built it together. And, well, I'll miss Toys R Us, man. I'll miss Toys R Us. There'll be no store like it. I'm hoping Disney buys it out, but that's like wishing for a miracle. In a world where miracles can't happen, and only the corporate win. There's nothing sacred in this world. Something is so easily destroyed, easily replaced, easily gone, easily manufactured. So much of it just easily taken away, easily built up and taken away. KB Toys was one such example again. I would pass by that store every time when I went to the mall when I was a little kid. I still remember where it once stood. And every day I tried to sneak in there. Now, KB Toys is still around. I checked. They're in Australia. They're in Australia. So, it's nice to see that at least they're still alive. This just proves one thing to me. The insatiable lust for money is a bigger control over Let me try that again. The insatiable lust some people have for money is bigger than the insatiable lust for women. Let that sink in. We see money more of some of us see money more as a bigger priority than sex. That's the world we live in, folks. And I hate it. If I were a businessman, I tried my hard-earned day, trying so hard to make kids happy, to make you smile, to bring joy. Farewell, Toys R Us. An army of Toys R Us kids shall weep and pay respects. Now there is nothing left than a GameStop and a toy section at various box office stores. And now for a moment of silence to honor the fallen. Thank you. Respect your fandoms and pay respects to those who make you feel like a kid. We were a child once in life, but in heart, we are children forever.